Welcome back to Sideline Sports, guys. I am Trevor. Hit the like and hit the subscribe when you watch the podcast channel, please. We're live because I want to talk a little bit about the Clippers winning last night. That puts the Warriors in the 7th seed, so they've moved out of the top 6 playoff spots and into the top play-in game. So it just further illustrates the importance of winning every single game right now, and every game right now for the Warriors really is a playoff game at this point. Clearly, we need Curry back as soon as possible, so we'll see if he plays tomorrow. But definitely got to get back. The fact that they're off for the last few days has definitely been a problem. Other teams have been able to catch up, like, say, Minnesota and now the Clippers. Minnesota hasn't, but the Clippers have. Who knows? If Minnesota wins another one, then they'll be right there tied with the Warriors again too. So going to be very, very close, like I said. Let's see. I think there's 12 games left in the season. So, yeah, it's going to be a dead heat to the very finish. And, you know, the Warriors aren't doing themselves any favors by losing some of those games that they should have picked up. They should have definitely won that game in Miami, but they dropped it. Wasn't their best basketball, of course, and that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. I'm just trying to figure out if they're going back to their old ways, or teams have figured them out with Jimmy Butler's addition. But I find that a little bit harder to believe because Jimmy Butler is not a player you just figure out. He's a guy you just have to deal with, just like Steph Curry and just like Draymond Green. So I have a harder time believing that, and I have a more realistic and easier time believing that the supporting role players are just not consistent enough to be a championship team this year. We'll see. Right now, I'm not really sure what they are going to the playoffs. They need to turn this around and be consistent into how many games they have to play in the playoffs, right? So, I mean, you could play, 12, 16 games more in the playoffs. And in that run, they've got to be the team that looked like they went, 14 out of 16, and not a team that looks like they lost 10 out of the last 9. So you don't know what you're getting with this Warrior team as a bottom line. I do think in the offseason we're going to see some change with that with the Warriors. I think because they got Jimmy Butler, there's going to be probably some movement within the roster to try and upgrade some of those other players who are not consistent. I don't know if that means Moses Moody. I don't think Jonathan Kuminga is going to get the money he is asking because, quite honestly, he hasn't earned it yet. So there's no reason that Jonathan Kuminga should be getting paid a $250 million contract or more. I know he's asking for something like $35 million a year. That's just not realistic for somebody who can't come in and night out and give you production, which he hasn't really done. So there's going to be some things in the offseason, guys, that are going to be changes, probably for the best. There's other players. I'm sure they're going to keep Podziemski because Podziemski is a guy who is basically the only true backup to Steph Curry at the point guard position, and he's got potential. But there's definitely going to be some movement. Some players are going to be signed, but let's not focus on the future because right now the Warriors are in a dead heat for the playoffs. And even though they're in the 7th seed, just remember, guys, they have 2 games that they can play to get into the playoffs, right? They don't need to play 2. If they win the first one, then they don't have to play a second one, and they're in the playoffs. But ideally, they get that 6th spot back, and that all depends on if the Clippers drop a game here soon or if Minnesota drops a game. It doesn't really matter for Minnesota as much as the Clippers losing. And then we need the Warriors to go out there and win tomorrow against the Pelicans, which is a very winnable game. They should be able to do it, and I just don't see any reason why they can't just flip this back and start winning games again. Dropping 2 in a row is no big deal usually, but because it's so close to playoff time and it's in a dead heat, you can't. Every game is a playoff game. You cannot sit there and drop games like to the Heat that you should win. Otherwise, that just tells the whole world you're not really ready for playoffs. And I don't know if that's true with the Warriors, but again, it's really a hot and cold kind of situation, roller coaster year for the Warriors. You don't know what team you're going to get. a lot of times. I figured with Jimmy Butler it stabilized a little bit, and I still believe that's true. But if you don't have Steph Curry, then you're missing one key element. And if you watch my podcast at all, a couple months ago, I even said one of the biggest things that will stop this Warrior team from going deep in the playoffs now that they have Jimmy Butler is clearly health. And there it is right there. Steph Curry's hurt, and it dramatically changes the way this team looks on the court. And it's not a surprise, but it is probably the main factor as to why this team will either go deep in the playoffs or have a short playoff exit. So everybody's healthy right now but Curry, and that's kind of a problem. Let's see if he comes back tomorrow. I kind of expect he probably will, but we'll see how he's feeling and how the evaluation goes. I believe he was supposed to be evaluated yesterday, although I didn't see anything other than I think that he can practice and shoot around. But that was about the most I ever saw. I think what he is right now is questionable for tomorrow's game, but still, I think he probably will play, especially with everything going on the line right now. If they win tomorrow, they're back in that 6th spot, and then it's just up to the back and forth again, whether the Clippers win or Minnesota wins or drops a game. And if that happens, obviously it will give the Warriors some relief. They had that 2 days ago, and now they don't have that at all. So it can swing just that fast. And, hey, it's a dead heat to the very end, guys. So we got about 12 games left, I believe. It's going to go by fast in just a couple of weeks. And we'll know where we are in about a week from now, I believe. It'll get a lot closer to understanding where the Warriors are going to be in that playoff hunt. So anyway, guys, I'm still out in Arizona, so I'm doing all the live podcasts for now. And then I'm on my way to Florida for 2 weeks. And then I'll be back in the studio doing podcasts from the studio. Until then, it'll be from the laptop or live here. At least you got a great background here. Awesome golf course here in Arizona, in Flagstaff. Usually really beautiful in the mornings. The afternoons are kind of warm, but the nights are amazing. If you ever want to visit a place like Flagstaff, it's awesome. But anyway, until next time, guys, probably going to be, I'm guessing, either tomorrow after the game or Saturday morning. We'll talk about the Warriors situation after that. Monday, we'll talk Niners, so tune in for that. And remember, hard work beats talent when talent don't work. So I'll see you in the next one, guys.